If you bend your knees to sit down and they sound like a bowl of Rice Krispies, I know exactly what's going through your mind. You're terrified you are grinding away your very last bit of cartilage. You think every pop, click, and crunch is the sound of permanent damage. But what if I told you that avoiding movement because of that noise is actually the exact thing destroying your joints? Hello, I'm Dr. Marcus, a doctor of physical therapy specializing in geriatric orthopedics and joint biomechanics. Every single day in my clinic, I see patients who are secretly giving up the activities they love, climbing stairs, gardening, evening walks, for one reason: their joints make too much noise. They fear losing their independence, so they try to save their joints by sitting still. By the end of this video, I'm going to teach you exactly how to decode these sounds. You will understand the crucial difference between a harmless pop and a dangerous grind, and I'll give you a simple, practical routine to naturally lubricate your joints before you even get out of bed. But first, I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments right now, which joint in your body is the absolutely noisiest when you wake up in the morning? Is it your knees, your shoulders, your neck? Drop a comment below because you might be surprised by how common your specific issue really is. Let me tell you about Margaret. Let's call her Margaret, a 68-year-old retired teacher living in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Margaret has a beautiful golden retriever named Buster. For years, her morning routine was the same. Wake up, make coffee, and take Buster for a 2-mile walk around her neighborhood. It was the highlight of her day. But a few months ago, everything changed. One morning, as Margaret was walking down the 3 wooden steps of her front porch, her right knee let out a loud, sickening crunch. It didn't hurt necessarily, but the sound alone made her freeze. It sounded like she was stepping on crushed glass. The next day, she heard it again, when she stood up from her favorite reading chair. A sharp, echoing crack. Then, her left shoulder started clicking every time she reached up to the highest kitchen cabinet to grab her coffee mugs. Margaret did what almost any reasonable person would do when their body starts sounding like a rusty door hinge. She stopped moving. She stopped walking Buster. She stopped using the high cabinets. She started taking the stairs one agonizing step at a time, keeping her knee totally stiff. She was absolutely convinced that every click was her bones scraping together, and she was terrified she was on the fast track to a total knee replacement. Within 6 weeks, Margaret wasn't just hearing noises anymore. Now, she was experiencing profound, debilitating morning stiffness. Her knees felt like they were encased in cement when she woke up. Her shoulder ached constantly. By trying to save her joints by not moving them, she had inadvertently starved them. This is the tragedy of what we call fear-avoidance behavior in the physical therapy world. When we hear a sound in our joints, our brain interprets it as an alarm bell. We panic. We brace ourselves. We restrict our range of motion. We think we are protecting our joints from wear and tear, but we are actually cutting off their life support. To understand why Margaret's stiffness got so much worse when she stopped moving, I need you to understand what is actually happening inside your joints right now. I want you to picture a car engine. An engine is made of metal parts that move past each other at high speeds. Without motor oil, the friction would create immense heat, and the metal would grind itself to dust in minutes. Your joints are remarkably similar. Where 2 bones meet, say your thigh bone and your shin bone at the knee, the ends are covered in a smooth, slippery white substance called articular cartilage. This cartilage is incredible. When it's healthy, it's actually slicker than ice sliding on ice. But just like a car engine needs oil, your cartilage needs lubrication. That lubricant is called synovial fluid. Synovial fluid is a thick, slippery liquid that acts like the body's natural WD-40. It coats the cartilage, reduces friction, and absorbs shock. But here is the critical piece of the puzzle, the one biological fact that completely changes how you should treat your noisy joints. Your cartilage does not have its own blood supply. Let me say that again because it is the most important thing you will learn today. Your cartilage does not have a direct blood supply. If you cut your finger, blood rushes to the area to heal it and deliver nutrients. But your cartilage relies entirely on the surrounding synovial fluid to get the oxygen and nutrients it needs to survive. Think of your cartilage like a dry sponge sitting on your kitchen counter. If you just pour water next to the sponge, nothing happens. But if you press down on the sponge and release it, it sucks the water right up. That is exactly how your joints work. The physical act of moving your joint, bending it, straightening it, putting gentle weight on it, literally squeezes the old, waste-filled fluid out of the cartilage and sucks fresh, nutrient-rich synovial fluid back in. In my clinic, we have a saying, motion is lotion. Movement is not the thing destroying your joints. Movement is the very mechanism that feeds them. By sitting still, by trying to protect her crunchy knees, Margaret was wringing her cartilage dry. She wasn't saving her joints. She was starving them of the only lubrication they had. But I know what you're thinking right now. Dr. Marcus, that sounds great in theory, but my knees literally sound like grinding gravel. Are you telling me that's just a lack of fluid? Not necessarily. And this is where we have to be extremely careful. Because while some noises are completely harmless, others are massive red flags that demand immediate medical attention. There are two completely different physiological events happening in your body when you hear a noise. One is perfectly safe, and the other is a sign of structural wear. If you don't know the difference, you might be ignoring a serious problem. Or, like Margaret, you might be ruining your life over nothing at all. Let's talk about the first type of joint noise. In the medical field, we call this cavitation. Most people think that a loud, sharp pop or crack when they bend their knee or stretch their back is the sound of a bone snapping out of place or a ligament tearing. They hear the noise, panic, and immediately stop moving. But the reality of what is happening inside your body is actually fascinating and completely harmless. Inside that slippery synovial fluid we talked about earlier, there are naturally dissolved gases, mostly nitrogen, along with some oxygen and carbon dioxide. When you move a joint through its range of motion, you are slightly stretching the joint capsule. This rapid change in volume creates a sudden drop in pressure inside the joint. When the pressure drops, those dissolved gases rapidly come out of the fluid to form a tiny bubble, and then instantly collapse, or pop. That's it. That loud, echoing crack that terrifies you is literally just a tiny bubble of nitrogen gas popping inside your joint fluid. It is the exact same biomechanical process that happens when a teenager cracks their knuckles. Have you ever noticed that after you pop a specific joint, you can't make it pop again for another 20 or 30 minutes? That's because it takes time for the nitrogen gas to slowly dissolve back into the synovial fluid. But the fear of this harmless sound can cause catastrophic secondary injuries. Let me introduce you to Arthur, a 72-year-old retired mechanic. Arthur woke up one morning, stretched his arms over his head, and heard a massive pop in his right shoulder. It didn't hurt at all. But Arthur, knowing he had turned wrenches for 40 years, was convinced he had finally snapped his rotator cuff. Instead of going about his day, Arthur found an old medical sling in his closet and strapped his arm to his chest to protect it. He wore that sling for 2 solid weeks, taking it off only to shower. When he finally came into my clinic, he was in agony. But his pain wasn't from a torn rotator cuff. Because he had completely immobilized his shoulder over a harmless nitrogen gas bubble, the capsule around his joint had shrunk, thickened, and essentially glued itself together. Arthur had given himself a severe case of adhesive capsulitis, commonly known as frozen shoulder. It took us 6 months of painful, grueling physical therapy to undo the damage caused by 2 weeks of unnecessary fear. Here is my golden rule for cavitation. If your joint pops, even if it is incredibly loud, but there is absolutely zero pain, zero swelling, and the joint doesn't feel unstable, you are safe to keep moving. Do not brace it. Do not put it in a sling. Keep that lotion in motion. However, there is a second type of noise, and this is the one you cannot afford to ignore. We call this crepitus. Crepitus does not sound like a single, clean pop. It is a lower-pitched, sustained, grating, or crunchy sound. My patients often describe it as sounding like stepping on fresh snow, rubbing 2 pieces of heavy grit sandpaper together, or grinding coffee beans. Unlike the harmless gas bubbles of cavitation, crepitus is a mechanical sound. It happens when the thick, smooth, articular cartilage that caps your bones begins to thin out, fray, and become rough. Think of a freshly paved asphalt road. When it's new, your tires glide over it silently. But after a few harsh winters, the road becomes pitted, cracked, and rough. Driving over it creates a loud, vibrating rumble. When your cartilage becomes rough due to aging, past injuries, or osteoarthritis, the surfaces no longer glide perfectly. They catch, they vibrate, and they grind. Many seniors make a massive mistake here. They assume that all joint noise is just a normal part of getting older, so they ignore the warning signs. I saw this with Helen, a 65-year-old florist. Helen started hearing a deep, grinding crunch in her right hip every time she stepped out of her delivery van. Unlike Arthur's painless pop, Helen's grinding was accompanied by a deep, pinching ache in her groin, and her hip would occasionally feel like it was going to give way. But Helen was tough. She told herself to just push through it. She ignored the pain and kept slamming her body weight down onto that hip every single day. Because she didn't modify her movements or seek help to improve her joint mechanics, that rough cartilage wore down faster and faster. By the time the pain became so unbearable that she finally came to see me, the cartilage was completely gone. She had severe bone-on-bone osteoarthritis and required a total hip replacement. If you have a joint that grinds, crunches, and is accompanied by pain, swelling, heat, or a feeling of instability where the joint might collapse, you cannot simply push through it. You need medical evaluation. And when you do go to the doctor, I want you to write down and ask them this exact question. Doctor, is the noise in my joint related to structural wear, or is it physiological? Write that down. Ask that exact question. Why? Because unfortunately, many busy doctors will just hear, "My knee clicks," hand you a prescription for an anti-inflammatory, and tell you to take it easy. By asking if the noise is structural wear, Crepitus cartilage damage, or physiological, harmless cavitation, you instantly signal to your doctor that you understand your body. It forces them to look closely at your x-rays and give you a specific biomechanical diagnosis rather than a generic dismissal. But what if you are caught in the middle? What if you have morning stiffness, some mild crunching, but you aren't in severe, agonizing pain? You know you need to move to stimulate that synovial fluid, but you're terrified of causing more wear and tear. This is exactly where my patients get stuck. You know, sitting still dries out your joints, but walking on a stiff, crunchy knee feels like you are doing damage. The secret lies in how you start your movement. You cannot take a joint that has been starved of synovial fluid all night and immediately subject it to your full body weight on the stairs. You have to prime the pump. You need to perform specific unloaded movements that act as a sponge, pulling that lubricating fluid into the cartilage before gravity and your body weight compress the joint. In just a moment, I am going to walk you through my exact step-by-step morning lubrication protocol. This is the routine I give to my patients to safely eliminate morning stiffness, silence those creaky joints, and get them moving with confidence again. Let's get right into the protocol. I call this the before gravity routine. The absolute worst thing you can do for stiff, noisy joints is to go from lying completely still for 8 hours to instantly standing up and putting your entire body weight on dry cartilage. We need to wake up the synovial fluid first, before gravity has a chance to compress the joint. Step 1. The edge of bed knee swing. Before your feet ever touch the floor in the morning, I want you to sit on the edge of your mattress. Let your legs dangle freely. Now, simply swing your lower legs back and forth, like a child sitting on a tall stool. Don't use heavy muscle force. Just create a steady, rhythmic pendulum motion. Do this for about 30 seconds. This completely unloaded motion acts like a vacuum. It pulls fresh, nutrient-dense synovial fluid into the deepest parts of your knee joint, washing away the inflammatory waste products that built up overnight. Step 2. The shoulder pendulum. If your upper body clicks and catches, stand up from the bed, but lean over and support your good arm on your bedside table or the mattress. Let your stiff, noisy arm hang straight down toward the floor, completely relaxed like a dead weight. Gently sway your torso to make that hanging arm move in small, effortless circles. Let the momentum of your body do the work, not your shoulder muscles. Do 20 circles clockwise, then 20 counterclockwise. This separates the ball and socket joint just a fraction of a millimeter, allowing the fluid to coat the cartilage without grinding it. Step 3. The heel slide. Lie back down on your bed for just a moment. Keep your legs straight, then slowly slide one heel up toward your buttocks, bending your knee and hip, and then slide it back down. Alternate legs 10 times. This not only lubricates the hip and knee simultaneously, but gently stretches the thick connective tissue in your thighs that often pulls your kneecap out of alignment, causing even more clicking. This entire routine takes less than 3 minutes, but those 3 minutes change the entire biomechanical environment of your joints for the rest of the day. You are essentially oiling the hinges before you force the door open. There is an incredible, life-changing psychological freedom that comes with finally understanding your body. When you realize that a loud pop is usually just a nitrogen bubble, and that gentle, strategic movement is the cure, not the cause of your stiffness, the fear simply evaporates. You break the devastating cycle of fear-avoidance. You stop treating your body like it's made of fragile glass and start treating it like the resilient, living ecosystem it actually is. That is exactly what happened with Margaret. Once she understood that the sickening crack on her porch stairs was just harmless cavitation, and she started using the before-gravity routine every single morning, her life transformed. She stopped freezing up. She stopped avoiding the stairs. Because she wasn't terrified to move, she started consistently feeding her cartilage the fluid it was starving for. Her debilitating morning stiffness vanished within 2 weeks. Today, she and Buster are back to their full 2-mile morning walks, and she hasn't thought about a wheelchair or a knee replacement since. You do not have to live in fear of your own joints. You just need the right tools and the right understanding to take care of them. Now, I want you to make a commitment to your mobility right now. Which step are you going to take next? Comment, starting today, if you're going to use this before-gravity joint recovery routine before you get out of bed tomorrow. Comment, asking my doctor if you're bringing up painful crepitus and structural wear at your next visit. Comment, sending this if you know a friend or spouse who is terrified of their noisy knees and desperately needs to hear this message. If this video helped you understand your body better, please share it, save it so you can follow along with the routine tomorrow morning, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss another mobility protocol. I'm Dr. Marcus, and I'll see you in the next video. Keep moving.